Wherever you are, welcome to another of my takes on China. And when Western media portray Xi Jinping as despotic, authoritarian or isolated, they claim it's because he's feared too much. At the same time, they claim on a different day, or sometimes on the same day, that he can't step aside because he'd be arrested in a moment by his enemies. Wow. He's either the most powerful man in China, or he's the most weakened man in China. Either way, it's total rot. He's neither. He has, since day one, and in fact well before he was president, always said he would root out corruption. It's a huge task. If you think about it, every powerful organization has people that will abuse their power. What Xi Jinping is doing is ensuring that the system is good enough to catch them before they reach the top. Western media assume and claim he's removing all his opposition. That's not true. In fact, there's ample evidence that people who he appointed, people who supported him, were later found to have done something wrong and removed. And then Western media says, oh, he removed people he appointed, and that makes him a bad manager. Good God, will it ever end? He appointed people he thought were good. He found they were not, and they left. Show me a CEO anywhere in the world that hasn't been disappointed in the appointment of a senior management position they've made. Sometimes people just disappoint. Sometimes we find out things about them which make them inappropriate, or maybe the position we put them in. I've been a senior manager. I've experienced this. All of us who have had that position know this. Even with a friend, sometimes we trust them. They let us down. We were wrong and we move on. It doesn't make anyone a bad person. It doesn't make Xi Jinping a bad leader. It makes him human. To say he's made enemies would be correct. Important people have been removed from important positions. But it isn't him personally doing it. Many of these people had it good before Xi Jinping came to power. Very few of them ever posed a threat to Xi. They posed a threat to the good order of governance. They posed a threat to the integrity of the party, and they posed a threat to the support that the party has from the people. And believe me, that support is real. Without going into individual cases, and we will in a moment, most of the people caught up in corruption investigations would not pose a threat to Xi Jinping. They were simply too low in the pecking order, nor do they pose any threat to the power base. Most have been corrupt for many years and got caught up in investigations, some of which went back to the source of the corruption, such as in military procurement, land management, disbursement of government funds. China is quite transparent in what it does, but for obvious reasons, it's not always transparent in how it does them. It does want to catch them. So most of us don't understand the methodology, the processes of investigations. But what we do know is that there is a huge department reporting solely to the presidential office, which investigates corruption in both governance and the party. And they are not the same thing. The final decision on who gets investigated might belong to Xi, but I very much doubt it. He has a lot of other much more important things to worry about. So he appoints people he trusts. Show me a leader who doesn't do that. I'm sure it's what every person in history has done. He isn't surrounding himself with sycophants, as Trump appears to do. He's trying to get the best possible governance for a very complicated and large country. Historically, the biggest story of a corruption takedown in China's recent history was that of Bo Xilai. It's fair to say that the man in charge of Chongqing, a municipality of 32 million people and a reputation as a hard man, was a contender for the top spot. He was indeed a competitor to Xi Jinping. And for this reason, rumors started that Xi Jinping was purging his enemies. Nothing could be further from the truth. Although Xi Jinping was indeed in the Politburo and was one of the people selected for the top job after the retirement of Hu Jintao, it's extremely unlikely that he had any part in the demise of the other contender, Bo Xilai. For those who didn't know the story, Bo was indeed corrupt. His money laundering was managed by an ex-MI5 contractor who Bo's wife had arranged to have murdered. Working with the head of the police and her husband, they covered up the murder to make it look like an accidental death by choking on his own vomit while drunk in a karaoke bar. But they forgot one big problem. The guy was a teetotaler. He didn't drink. When it all started to unravel, the chief of police went to the US consulate looking for sanctuary, and the US turned him away to avoid a diplomatic scandal. I think nowadays they might have taken him in, turned the story around and made China look like the bad guys. But this was a different era. Bo Xilai and his wife both ended up in prison. The wife was sentenced to death with a 2-year suspension, and I suspect they're probably both out of prison by now, because this was quite a long time ago. Their careers would be finished, their party memberships would have been cancelled, their political rights would have been removed for a period of time, and friends who still have positions of power wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole. Now, we won't see Chinese media doing follow-up stories, and I'm equally certain that we won't see either of them going to the media to sell their stories. This isn't Hollywood, this is China, where people convicted of crimes know that they will not get a sympathetic ear from a liberal press. The important thing to note is that one of the reasons for disposing of the money launderer was because they were already under investigation. The system had already identified corruption and was gathering evidence. Another reason appears to have been because he knew they were going to investigate, and he was asking for more money to mitigate his risks. And I'm going to do something here that I don't often do, and that is speculate. I have to wonder if another reason is that this was all part of a British intelligence operation. British intelligence, knowing that Bo and his family were under investigation, felt that he was no longer a viable asset, as he would never hold the top job, and would have been unlikely even to have kept his senior roles in government. It could certainly explain why the police chief who went to the US Embassy was turned away. Now, this was something that would definitely backfire on the intelligence community if China knew, and if my speculation is correct, they would have known the depth to which they were involved. If this happened, a secret agreement between British intelligence, US intelligence, and China's corruption watchdogs to keep it out of the news would have given everyone face. Had the police chief been accepted by the US Embassy, the scandal that could have erupted would have seen ambassadors kicked out, embassies closed, relationships tarnished for years. No one wants that. When intelligence operations have clearly failed, the best course of action is damage control, and this story reeks of it. So speculation over and back to the facts. Whether or not a person is guilty, it's highly unlikely that a reputation, even if unproven, of being corrupt would allow that person to aspire to senior management in China. And nowadays, if we're honest, it's highly unlikely that someone could reach the top through corruption without them coming under suspicion, as there is this entire department reporting only to the president's office on corruption of the party and governance. Remembering that not all government officials are in the party and not all party members are in government. So, to answer the often quoted statement that Xi Jinping is isolated, it's very easy. Open up the State Council Information Office website and take a look at what he's doing. Open China Daily and read their column, Xi's Moments. You will see that on a daily basis he's meeting world leaders, he's hosting summits, he's visiting people and places, and everywhere he goes there are thousands of people waving, cheering, and hoping to catch a glimpse of the great man. It would be ridiculous to assume that people don't speak to him. It would be equally ridiculous to assume that people around him fear him. He is China's most celebrated leader since Mao. He is a popular author. His books are everywhere. He's building an international community through BRICS, through RCEP, through the Eurasian Economic Union, through the Belt and Road Initiative, without even being a member through ASEAN. He's popular in most South American countries and welcomed wherever he travels in Southeast Asia. People are obviously still listening to what he has to say. But the truth is, it wouldn't matter if not one person in government spoke to him, because the Constitution gives people a say. The National People's Congress comes from the people. It's almost impossible to know anything about China and not know this. Every person in China has a gripe or two about how their government handles things, but every single one of them knows what to do if they want to take the matter to the next level. The People's Republic of China, the PRC, is supervised by the National People's Congress, the NPC, the Chinese People's Consultative Congress, the CPPCC. Note that word people. It's the most important word in each of them. The party doesn't get a mention, but people get 3 mentions, because this is the People's Republic of China. Not the Communist Republic of China. It's the Communist Party of China, not China's Communist Party, and that belongs to the people of China. Anyone who tells you that the people have no say in how China is managed are wrong. And now, with this, you can correct them. Thanks once again for watching my take on China. Please hit that like button and share widely. I have no problem with being shared. See you next time.